A lot of people around the world, especially women, have been working very hard to make a difference.
There are many issues affecting women in many of the provinces that are simply profoundly unjust.
These girls are being married off at 8 years, at 10 years, and they are married off to old men who are 50 years or 40-some. You can imagine we have, I had one who is 11 years and has given birth to a baby, and the situation is so bad.
HIV and AIDS is an issue that I don't want to say it's an African issue or is an issue in the continent, but basically is affecting largely women in the continent in terms of those that are ill and in terms of those that care.
A woman is to get to be born. When she's born, she grows up, and as soon as she starts showing the signs of a woman, of a real woman, that's maybe the breast, hips, and all that, she gets married. Or one of the few who've been able to escape this cultural practice or stages that a woman goes through in my community. And I actually escaped it very narrowly because I ran away just before it happened to me.
I heard some news that the own relatives of the girl, they rape that girl and they sell their body parts in the market. I mean, that was really strange to hear that the own relatives are doing such things.
In India, the girl child is the most vulnerable and the most easily available, and the more dangerous avenues are child prostitution.
Maybe the biggest message would be to the mothers, because we are the ones who don't push the girl child into the forefront. So the first message is to the mothers. Mothers, let us come out and encourage our girls to come out, take them to school, and promote them in all areas, and let them be what they are.
If we had gender budgeting for empowerment, then we would be able to do that, to empower the parents, so that they, instead of giving away their girl to marriage at 8, they are empowered to put their girl through school for education.
I have seen the changes that we've made because of the Beijing conference, especially in terms of education. Today, we have free primary education for all children in Kenya, and it is a product of Beijing and the new government that we have in Kenya.
Girls face many daunting challenges throughout their lives. They are often the last to be fed when food is scarce and the first to miss out on school. They are more vulnerable to violence in communities and schools and even in their homes. In times of conflict and emergency, they are at a greater risk of abuse in situations. They are also at greater risk of contracting HIV and AIDS.
We spoke with a doctor in the Wardak province of Afghanistan, just south of Kabul, who described how half of the patients she sees are malnourished. And so things like getting enough calcium in your bones so that you can deliver a baby without your bones breaking is why why they die there. And you have 11 doctors still for 100,000 people.
You find the water in the wells is very little. So you have to go and wait there for a very long time. You can wait for 2-3 hours. Some people go at night, they sleep there, waiting for just one bucket full of water.
The rural woman who is going to walk a distance to fetch water. The rural woman is the one who is going to take care of all the sick people without facilities. The rural woman is the one who is going to die on the way, walking a distance to a health center.
So this is the place where you find girls don't do well in schools, because when they come back home, they have no time at all for homework. It's only work, 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 work.
This year, we rejoice in seeing women taking top positions in the church, in government, in civil society. But we also become, in seeing that, ever more aware of the gaps in the well-being of those whose opportunities are circumscribed by poverty, cultural norms, or a society that does not truly recognize them as made in the image of God. This year's theme of the UNCSW, the elimination of all forms of discrimination and violence against girls, points that out even more sharply.
When the ambulance came and picked me up, if they were 2 minutes later, I would have died.
From a young age, I had suffered from child abuse, and I was taken from my mother at the age of 7. After 3 months in intensive care, I was placed into the care of the Australian Department of Human Services. For the last 10 years, I've moved to about 20 different foster families and 5 residential units. I've been separated from my 4 sisters and my brother. My greatest hope is to stop child abuse and help children that have suffered from child abuse or are suffering from it now. And my dream is to maybe one day be able to forgive my mother and, to forgive my mum and be able to maybe get the whole family together, even if it's for one day.
There's a lot of mixed feelings. I was just scared because I was on stage in front of so many people. And then I was thinking about my mum, and then I was thinking, I don't know, like, why weren't these people here supporting me then?
And my question to you is, how does the institution like the church help families with these problems?
We had a conversation before the program started, and you talked about your great hunger for a world where that doesn't happen anymore. And your knowledge of yourself as a proud young woman and a capable young woman. And the gift that you found even in the midst of your suffering. That is a holy statement. That is a belief that God has given you. The church can only stand in solidarity with you. Bless you. Bless you.
The enormity of violence against women seems to get worse all the time. I don't know whether we just hear more about it, but it feels nonstop. Whether you're talking about sexual abuse, you're talking about trafficking, you're talking about prostitution, you're talking about low wages, you're talking about lack of access to the job market, you're talking about the language of worship. It doesn't ever seem to get better.
Violence against women constitutes one of the most serious human rights violations of our time, both in times of peace and during armed conflicts. Worldwide, 1 in 4 women will be exposed to domestic violence during their lifetime.
Violence against women is increasing around the world. This was one of the statistics that came out in the year 2000 when they did the 5-year review of the Beijing Platform for Action. Although every other issue of the Platform of Action had made progress, women in education, women in politics, women in economics, the one area that had gone backwards was violence against women.
The girls in India, they must know what I'm learning here.
I want to write a biography.
You want to write?
A book about me.
I want to be a lawyer, and I want to be a voice to those women who are not listened to. I want to be to actually act on eliminating discrimination against women and children.
My challenge to you is to continue to agitate, to nag, to pester, to challenge the people and systems of this world so that all children, all girl children and all boy children can have an appropriate sense of pride.
By the end of the day, we can have a place where everybody feels they belong and everybody is somebody.